When Dwight Eisenhower comes to office in 1953, he inherits two issues right off the top that I can kind of distinctively show his style. One is the executive order to end segregation in the civil service. The other is the executive order, both Truman, to end segregation of military facilities and units throughout the United States, throughout the U.S. military establishment. In the case of the civil service, Ike is limited because, again, there is no civil rights law. It's a state prerogative in terms of public facilities, public schools, so forth, how they are conducted, or who is admitted, who is not. We've had separate but equal, only they were not equal, public schools in this country for decades. So Ike is limited there, but although he will take some action, I'll tell you about that in a moment. But he does have something he can act on immediately, and that is Harry Truman's languishing executive order to end segregation in all branches of the United States military establishment. And there, what Eisenhower does, again, I think a bit of the style of the man emerges, is he calls in the chiefs of all the military services into an unannounced, unpublicized meeting in the Oval Office. We wouldn't know about this for many years thereafter. And he tells each of the service chiefs that he agrees with Harry Truman's order, but now he wants it to become a reality. Now he wants it implemented. And, oh, by the way, I'd like segregation of the armed forces to end by the end of 1953. This is January, late January of 53. He has just taken office. And then Ike adds, and first-hand accounts exist of this, he adds to the service chiefs, by the way, if you don't feel prepared to do this, I'd like your resignation on my desk by the close of business today.
Hey, my Emmore brothers, back in again. And the clip that you just heard was James Spurlock during his 2011 lecture giving a word on the civil rights movement in the 50s, and him saying what heretofore most people don't know, that Eisenhower, not Johnson, is the father of the modern civil rights movement as it stands right now. And what he said is something that I learned recently. It has to be maybe the last 5-6 years about Eisenhower, because most modern history basically paints Eisenhower as a do-nothing president, and certainly doesn't paint him as a civil rights president. We normally give that to Kennedy or Johnson. And it's not until you dig into real history that you actually found that out. And the only reason I found that out because I was doing a research on the Moynihan Report, and I was tracing the timeline of the civil rights back to its origin, as you should. And the 1960s was the end of the civil rights movement, not the beginning. But the reason that I'm doing this is because I had a discussion, a long, winding discussion, kind of confusing for the most part. It was on a different topic. We talked about black women and how we got onto civil rights. I can't even imagine. And the argument led to something I said, just an offhand comment. Now, most people can get away with an offhand comment and everybody will blow over it and keep going. But unfortunately, I ain't one of those people, I guess. I have the fortunate or unfortunate reputation of being accurate or being right, which is not something that I actually aspire to. Being accurate is what I aspire to. Whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter. If I'm accurate is what I actually aspire to. But the smallest thing, when I challenge people's beliefs, trigger them. And one of these things that I triggered a couple of the panelists, George Macon and I do mean Brother Moses, I think it was his name, is because I call Eisenhower an honorable man. And because Eisenhower was, number one, white and president of the United States during the 50s, that struck them as wrong or somehow blasphemous, because that's not what we're taught. We're taught that we got civil rights on the strength of black protest. And it was our struggle that forced white people to give us what we truly deserve. And as with anything, with any truth, it's complex. It's not that simple. And it's not a single narrative that's been fed to us that actually happened. And me being black pill, I have to accept the world as it is, not the world that I want it to be, not the blue pill matrix construct that's fed to us in school. Same thing with President Abraham Lincoln, who is painted as a saint instead of, some people call him a devil, and I simply call him a president that was a man. And we paint President Abraham Lincoln as that great man that loved black people when he was a racist and hated our guts. But that's neither here nor there. But for a person that's fairly neutral, that's supposedly a racist, that supposedly hated our guts because of what he may or may not have done, and perhaps for his own reasons. The fact that I called him an honorable man and not, I didn't call him a saint or a god or perfect or a lover of black people. I never said that. I said he was an honorable man. And why did I say he was an honorable man? Honorable men, regardless of what we think of them, regardless of what their beliefs are, they do as they say they are going to do. He honored his promise to black people. Number one, to the black troops, to the black military men. Shout out to the military, shout out to Cerulean. He honored the black troops that served under him, that died for him. And he wanted to give those people that those troops represented a shot at being American. Maybe his idea of being American is not our idea of being American. That's fair. But heretofore, nobody had really even given us a shot. I do mean nobody. No president had really given you a shot. And I do mean nobody. And here's a president, like him or not, that stuck out his neck. To be honorable. Not great, but honorable. He didn't brag about it. He didn't write books about it. He didn't put headlines out about it. He didn't thump his chest. He didn't do what Johnson did that wanted to leave a legacy. He had already done that. He's an honorable man that did what he thought was the correct thing according to his code. That's honorable. And we'll like it or not, whether he was a racist or not, whether he liked us or not, he did give us a shot. He did give us impetus. He did put the power of the presidency behind this momentum, because without it, it wouldn't have worked. Without it, the civil rights movement would not even have had a seed to get started. There would be no Martin Luther King. There would be no Thurgood Marshall. There would be no 60s civil rights movement. It would never have happened. Unfortunately, like it or not, history turns on events like this, and history is far more complex than we like to imagine. And your hatred of white people doesn't matter, because history doesn't give a shit one way or the other. It either happens or it doesn't. It either turns on a dime or turns on an event or it doesn't. Which is one reason why a very honorable man who, my black pill brother, once advised me that he doesn't know why I do this. Why do I waste my time and my breath on people that probably will not accept what you say and are too lazy to look it up, too lazy to actually look deeper, because it goes against their training. They don't want to go up into the door of light and look at the architect and talk to him honestly, whether you agree with him or not, just like Neo did. Neo hated the architect. He didn't agree with the architect. But at the end of the day, it either is or it isn't. At the end of the day, you either accept reality for what it is and construct what you believe with it, or you don't. And personally, I'm probably getting tired of teaching unwilling students. Now, I talked to George for 2 hours, and most of that 2 hours, it was simply George's refusal to accept reality. Whether he agreed with it or not, it's a refusal to accept reality, which I get a lot of, which actually wears me down, which makes me not want to put up videos, which is probably why the pace of my videos has slowed considerably. Now, I look back, and I put up at least 2 videos on Eisenhower and civil rights. And I put them up because when I learned something, when I actually learned something, started digging into it, and I learned something I didn't know before, that I didn't realize before, that actually drops into the slot of truth rather than myth, like they usually teach history as. Not truth, but myth. And I know people don't want to swallow it. And people give me all kinds of reasons why something should be and why it couldn't be, instead of dealing with what is. Doesn't matter why it couldn't be, it still exists. Regardless of what I think personally about Eisenhower, he's a Fabian socialist. Was he a eugenist? Possibly, as most liberals were. But the United States could have made a decision to follow Nazi Germany down that path and eliminate us, put us in ovens the same way that Germany put the Jews in ovens and the Poles in ovens and the other mixed black, the Rhine bastards in ovens. They could have done that. What made them not do it? What made them not do it is Eisenhower visiting those camps, visiting those burial sites, visiting the massacre and the mess that Germany left Europe in, killing 60 million people, and decided that regardless of what the United States was and what white people in the United States were, they were not that. And they decided to do something else other than that. I know some people would have preferred to go in the ovens and get put into the ground rather than to actually mix with white people. Maybe they are correct ultimately. Who knows? And maybe we didn't get all that we were supposed to get. That's obvious. Maybe civil rights didn't work the way we thought it was going to work. Or maybe we think we're supposed to get something more than what we've been given. I would not even argue with that. But at the end of the day, history doesn't give a shit about that. And while things could have been a whole lot better, a look at the history of Argentina and a few other places with their unwanted populations and see what they've done with them, and realize history could have been a whole lot worse. There's a very good reason Argentina is 97% white, even when they had a slave population to help build that country. There by the grace of God go I. And a lot of us puff up our chests and beat the drums and pretend like we're something that we are not, or at least not yet. And since we are not the thing that we want to be yet, we try to pretend that we're something that we're not. And I am one that says, be who you are, be the best of what you are, of who you are, and make the best decision of what you have right now. And don't pretend that you have something that you don't. Anyway, there's more to the lecture. I actually went and found it. It's something that probably nobody else would or did, because I haven't seen anybody else other than me post it, because I'm looking on YouTube and I'm the only one that even talks about it, which I think is sad. A lot of things that are on YouTube that I discover because I'm one of the few people who actually do the work. Out of all the millions of black people on YouTube, I think that's sad. A lot of pro-black people that are on YouTube that dig into this, that do this on a daily, that quote me other things. I think it's sad that I'm one of the few that actually do this, which makes me not said bitter. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to be that bitter old teacher that's mad at his people for them not being better. I'm not going to die the way my teacher did, that's bitter at his people for not being better. I'm going to understand you for what you are and what has happened to you. And the reason I am here is because I show compassion to my people, the same way other people have shown compassion to my ignorant ass and have had patience with me when I didn't know, which is probably why I do this. Anyway, I'm gonna jump off of here and I'm gonna leave it here and put my soapbox back up. Probably not too far because I didn't even get a chance to actually collect dust from the last couple of weeks. But this is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.